This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
War Eagle Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson, and I'm also here with Jared Davis. We're talking about practice, but not for long, thankfully. We are almost near the 2024 season. We've got some fun fall camp news. I got to go to the scrimmage/practice this last Saturday, so got some intel for you from that. We'll talk about some of the recruiting hype, what's going on, and why there's so much momentum going on there. And then we'll finish up with a fun little topic about the college football 25 video game. And Jared and I have both been playing that and really been enjoying it. So I want to talk through that. All right, Jared, how have you been? I know it's been a little hiatus. We've done some over the summer, but now it's August. We're getting closer. It's blazing hot outside, but maybe showing a little sign of cooling off, feeling like it almost is fall. And then
has the pumpkin spice latte come out yet? That's the question. You have pumpkin spice latte, then you have football. So that's what I need to know. Actually, yet. I don't know if the pumpkin spice latte, but
that's fair.
Everything at Target and Publix is pumpkin now. So everything's pumpkin flavored. So that's already out. So that means we're close. We're getting close, AJ, for football. Overall, I've been good. The heat is what it always is. I mean, I've been to luckily the first game 7:30, I think, Eastern time. I've been to, afternoon game, first games, and I mean, it is just brutal. Sun's out, hot. So hopefully we'll have a good experience at our first game with it being, a night game. So, but all in all, I've been doing good, man. How about you?
Yeah, I am doing quite well. Been having some fun vacations. Went to Hawaii over the summer. It was a good time, and there was some moments where I was kind of ready for football to start coming back, and right around, I think it was probably the SEC media days was when I really got excited about football, because you're starting to see real talk about what these players were doing, what's been going on. And I mean, honestly, throughout the summer, and we'll talk about this in the recruiting section, but my goodness, recruiting has been off the charts. So I think that's got some people around Auburn very optimistic. I mean, Jared, before we get into any specifics about fall camp, I mean, when was the last time you felt the most or similar optimism as this season? Because I don't know, personally, it feels like it's been, I don't know, like 3, 4, 5 years since having this much optimism.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm trying to go back to 2019 when we got Bo. I mean, we knew Bo was a stud, but probably the 2017-ish team, because we were, during that offseason, we were kind of bringing in Jarrett Stidham, trying to bring him on board. He wasn't signed with us yet. He finally signs. He was the stud out of Baylor, and we had a good core. And so bringing him on, I really thought good things were going to happen. And it took a while, but they did happen towards the end of the year.
I mean, literally a play, away from Kerryon Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, us going to a playoff game.
Probably they may have finished with the two best wins ever at the end of a season, honestly. I mean, they beat Georgia and Alabama back to back.
Oh, my gosh.
But then I would probably, if you're at that's probably the most I've had. But I was pretty excited 2019 bringing Bo in. Gus always had good talent, and we thought, oh man, he's brought in a 5-star quarterback. Yeah. This is gonna rock and roll. And they had a good year. I mean, we went 9-3. But it's been a while, man. It's been a long for us to have any optimism.
It's it's been rough. Like, I think, Jared, you and I before this were recollecting that you haven't really had any good seasons since you've been on the No Huddle show with me. I mean, we've been hovering around 500, with our win-loss. It's just been really tough sledding recently. And I feel like this is a year where we can have, winning season. I'm not going to be like we're making it to the playoffs. I don't think this is our year, but you almost got to think about this as like a little bit of a rebuild. And I think that's probably where some of this optimism is coming from. Like, it seems like a very measured approach to getting our team up to, which, Hugh Freeze will say it, he said it, he thinks Auburn is a top 10 program in the nation. And to do that, you have to really build the team up. And that's where we're starting to see some of the big fruits from that labor. I mean, last year it was, get the offensive line guys. We need a big offensive line guys. This year it was wide receivers. Let's focus on them. And my goodness, I mean, this fall camp just kind of showcased how many times Auburn social media has just hyped up Cam Coleman or Bryce Kane, Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson. I mean, the new guys just fresh out of high school. Some of them just 3 months away from being in high school. And these guys are just absolutely killing it. I mean, I got to see firsthand Malcolm Simmons on Saturday do crazy work. He was targeted a lot. He did really well considering he's only had really a couple practices or a couple weeks of practices at the college level. And for him to already be making such big strides and getting touchdown catches and just doing Ricardo Lewis type touch catches that got tipped up. I mean, it's awesome. So like, there's always one guy, right? There's always that one guy that everybody gets super hyped about. I think this year is going to be Malcolm Simmons, obviously Cam Coleman, but I think Cam Coleman's probably justified. I hope to not jinx us by saying that, but it feels like the hype is real with him. I mean, I saw him play on Saturday. I've seen videos of him on social media, just like a lot of you have. My goodness, one hand catches everything. The dude can do it all. Cam Coleman. I did want to get your thoughts on, some of the, just, I don't know, the wide receivers against our defense. The defense really did pretty good, particularly on Saturday. I mean, do you think that's just our defense is that good?
It's always hard to tell. I don't know if this is true. I'm always of the impression that even the first 1 or 2 games into a season, you see it in the NFL in preseason. I think defense typically is supposed to be better at the beginning of stuff just because there's just less. There's only so much you do with the defense, right? So it's more baseline.
Right.
Here's what we're doing. If you see the offense line up like this, okay. Offense is trying to implement. I don't know what you tell me. They're implementing like 50 or 60 plays, right? I mean, I don't know what they got a lot going on. You got new piece, like you can't miss. So let's say the linebacker was supposed to drop back 7 yards and he drops back 8. Okay, well the pass gets completed, but you tackle him. But if the receiver is supposed to go 7 yards and cut in and he goes 8, it's an incompletion. So there's no room for error on offense,
right?
In my opinion. So I feel like the offense is going to look worse. You have freshman receivers. Look, here's the deal. We all need to realize this. Cam Coleman, he very well could be a Julio Jones type player. We don't know, but he's got that ability. We haven't had that in a while. But he's going to make mistakes. He's a true freshman. I mean, Malcolm Simmons, he looked really good.
Oh, 100%.
I didn't see a lot of I didn't see a lot of highlights, but he actually reminded me from what I saw. I know you mentioned Ricardo Lewis, but he reminded me of who was the guy when we played against Oregon and Bo Nix noticed him wide open out and just bailed on the audible and said Hutton threw it. It was Eli. Was it Eli or Elijah? Something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's Eli Stove.
Yeah, Elijah Stove,
he
I think.
Reminds me,
that sounds right.
The little bit I saw reminds me of an Eli Stove guy. Fast guy, going to do the end arounds, intelligent guy, runs good routes, you can trust him. So that's the impression I got of the few highlights I saw.
Yeah.
And Eli Stove was a good player. But overall, I guess the ultimate thing is, yes, I would expect the offense to be lacking or behind. Now, you got to tell me this because I've gotten mixed signals on the internet. It was probably very vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
But did Peyton Thorne look composed or did he look a little lost? What was your impression?
I mean, he looked composed. I mean, whenever Peyton was in there, it was pretty obvious they were trying to put the number 1 defense against him to give him really good competition. And I mean, despite all of that, there were multiple times where I think Peyton got coached up. He made a wrong decision, but it wasn't anything crazy. He didn't throw any interceptions. it would just be like maybe he made the wrong read, or maybe the wide receiver, ran the wrong route, and that happens. And those are things, honestly, especially when we're getting a peek behind the curtain for 2 hours of practice, that stuff is going to happen because that stuff even during the season happens. And if I'm being honest, I'd rather Peyton get those out of his system already. But I mean, overall, he looked fine. I mean, if you look at his stats, he was 13 of 22 and a touchdown, and he was always the first guy out, whether it was the drills, whether it was a 7-on-7 stuff, whether it was the full contact scrimmage that they did. And to me, that shows Peyton's for sure the guy. And maybe he's just probably frustrated that the offense wasn't doing as well. And that's all right. I mean, he wants to prove our offense this year is good. And I want him to still think that it can be good, because then the sky's the limit.
Not to the extent of Nick Marshall, right? But I think one of the things that Peyton Thorne misses in those composed drills like that, or prepped practices, is we forget how good he is at the read option, and we don't run that. Yeah, you don't run that in those because you don't want to get him hurt. So I think that bringing that element in, I mean, this is a crazy stat. We've talked about it. I think he completed 5 passes against Alabama, and we should have won the game. Like that's how well he ran the read option. That's how good he was. He was diving to get first downs.
Yeah.
Like he's a gamer. My only issue with Peyton is that the only thing I need to see from him this year is if we do start out down 7 and he had a bad start, can he pull himself out of it? I don't think if he started well in games last year, I feel like he played pretty well. If he didn't start well, I feel like he wears his emotions on his sleeves, and that's good and bad. I need to see him, hey, we're down 7-10 to nothing, and it may be attributed to you for throwing a pick. Can you pull yourself out of that?
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, I feel like anytime an offense, and particularly quarterbacks, with that, if they start hot, that's a good indication that that's probably how the game's going to go for them. And when that didn't go well, I mean, a lot of times last year too, you got to remember he always had Robbie Ashford kind of in the back of his mind, because even when Peyton was the quarterback, you're always like, I'm a play away from Robbie Ashford taking over my spot because I threw a bad pass or made a wrong decision. And I think I do, and when towards the end of the season, when it was very clear we're going with one quarterback and it's Peyton Thorne, Peyton played so much better that way. And so like if he can tap into what he did the last 4 or 5 games of last season when he was the guy, I mean, I don't think Holden Garner is going to threaten him that much, or Hank Brown. I mean, they're going to do their jobs as like second and third string quarterbacks, but I don't think they're going to take over Peyton's job in the middle of a game. I don't think that's going to happen unless an injury happens, which, Lord forbid that. But that's the kind of thing that I'm hoping Peyton can kind of grow from this season. I did want to talk about how the running game looked. I mean, I think everybody knows Jarquez, Jeremiah Cobb, Damari Austin, and even Sean Jackson got some good touches from the running back room, and we all know who Jarquez is. I mean, it's not like we need him to show out. He had a couple good runs, but it wasn't, it's fine. He doesn't need to show us that he can be the crazy running back. We don't need him to get injured. I mean, even Hugh Freeze, I think this was right before the scrimmage on Saturday, he was like, it keeps me up at night just thinking about, one of the SEC teams lost their main running back during a fall practice. And, that's the kind of stuff that freaks coaches out. So, for good reasons, we didn't see much of Jarquez. Jeremiah Cobb and Damari Austin got a good bit. Sean Jackson, the former walk-on, he looked really solid. I hope now he can get some extra, actual play time, kind of behind the main 3-headed monster of Jarquez, Jeremiah, and Damari. Very excited to see what they can do. I will mention, and people had noted it, Jeremiah Cobb, bigger dude now. He is gained some weight. He definitely hit up the weight room, in the offseason. I got to see it. It looked real. Not that he was tiny before, but he definitely looks strong. And I think that's a good thing for durability in the SEC. Even considering, last year both Jarquez and Damari kind of had their moments of getting injured. You're gonna get injured as a running back, and so it's the resilience to kind of fend off those injuries, and hopefully they're minor. A few other things, tight ends. I mean, you got to see Rivaldo, Micah Riley, Ducker, both played pretty well. I mean, tight ends I feel like are still going to be a key element of this offense, especially with some of these really young wide receivers that we've got. And then a couple of the standouts just wanted to talk about on defense. Keldrick Falk, Jalen McLeod, the big names that you've heard on defense. I mean, you can see that they're legit, and they are going to be coming for every single running back and every single quarterback that lines up against them. You can see how good they are, how well polished they were. I will say that I noticed that Austin Keys got a little bit injured on one of the plays, which was a little disconcerting because he literally was like in a good amount of pain, and he came over to the side. They worked on him a little bit. I haven't heard anything since. Hope he's okay. That's just the way it goes, especially once you start hitting full pads. A couple other things, special teams. It looked like the punt return, just from what we could see. There was a couple people they threw back there, Will Upton, number 80, and then Bryce Kane. I think also Keontae Scott's probably going to be back there as well, but he had tweaked something and wasn't able to go. Let's see, kickoff return. Also, I think Hugh was kind of saying Jarquez really wants to play, but he's not sure if that's the wisest thing, just because that's extra plays that Jarquez could get injured. We'll see, but it sounds pretty likely that Jeremiah Cobb will take some kickoff returns, which he's a fast dude, so I like that option as well. We had some good punts. I noticed one from Oscar Chapman went like 55 yards. The kick returner or punt returner had to turn around, run backwards. It was one of those just crazy good punts. For kicker, it sounds like Alex McPherson probably heard some of the news, but he's had some intestinal kind of issues, and it sounds like they're starting to figure some of that out, and he should be ready for the season, but just with all that going on, him having to, it sounds like, gain back some weight. It's always nice to know. Think about Auburn's history with kickers. We have a good backup with Towns McGoo, and he looked good. It looked like there was I think he had about a 40-yarder, 45, somewhere in that range that he made during the practice. And it's just always good to know you've got a good backup just in case Alex McPherson is not ready to go at the beginning of the season. All right. Any other thoughts, any other kind of hyper news that you've heard from this fall camp that I might have missed before we jump over to some of the recruiting?
No, man. I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, it's the hype's around all the freshmen for sure. But yeah, I mean, I will hit on, Jarquez. I think he started I don't know if he even started the last season. He had the off the field incident, but he started the season kind of slow. But then he had 4 games in a row where he busted a 50-yard run for a touchdown, which we just had not seen in a while. So he's got the talent. He's fine. Keep him healthy. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Definitely excited to see Jeremiah Cobb if he's gained weight because, he's very shifty. Maybe our most talented running back on the team. Just got to get that, experience. So, yeah, all in all, excited to see what the whole group brings, man.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of optimism, and I after seeing some of the practice in person, you can feel it. Despite some of the defense just doing what they did, I mean, there were still lots of explosive plays from the offense that brought people getting ready. They're getting ready for us being able to come out literally in 2.5 weeks on Saturday. All right, let's shift over to some of the recruiting news. Lots of, again, optimism around that. But I did want to hit on just a few things with recruiting. I mean, yeah, we all knew last year there was going to be an overhaul. There was going to need to be a lot done in the recruiting. And, I think some of the stuff, I don't know if you would ever officially say this, but, he took some time away from game planning to go and recruit. And now you're seeing some of that really start to pay off. You think back to, could we have gotten a win or two more last year if you didn't do as much recruiting? I think there's a good chance of that, but we're building for the future. And I think me as an Auburn fan, and I hope you, listener, also kind of just remember, hey, you have to rebuild. If you were honestly in just a place like Auburn where it was just abysmal, especially in the recruiting ranks. So I do want to talk about one of the big things, obviously Big Cat Weekend. But now that it's starting to calm down with the recruits and who committed after that, I mean, Auburn has now, I think my tracker is we got 9 total commitments just from that one weekend alone. And then the days following, I'm going to go through just a few of them, just to mention them, but there's, in my mind, kind of 2 big groups that we definitely targeted. One was Alabaster or Thompson High School, and then the second was Mobile. Both places I've actually lived, but those 2 locations used to be absolutely locked down by Nick Saban and his Alabama staff. And now that Saban's no longer the head coach at Bama, this has opened the door for Hugh Freeze to jump right in. And man, in-state recruiting is just going off. We are getting, it feels like every top 10 recruit, it feels like, in Alabama, which is very encouraging. So I'll just list off a few of these. Hezekiah Harris, Shadarius Tootle, who will be a linebacker for the 26th class. He's from Mobile. LaMichael Garrett, he's a linebacker for the 26th class. He was the number 8 player in Alabama. Blake Woodby, 4th. He's a 4-star from Baltimore, Maryland. John McGuire, he'll be a punter for this next year's class. He's the number 1 punter and kicker from Alabama, also from Thompson. So you're seeing a theme there. Jared Smith, he's an edge from Thompson, number 4 player in the state of Alabama. Anquan Fagans, another 4-star from Thompson, and number 2 player in the state of Alabama for this 2025 class. Derek Smith, also from Alabama, and Selma, he's a 4-star and number 3 player in the state. Eric Winters, he's a 4-star safety and number 5 player from Enterprise, Alabama. So you're starting to see they're targeting the state of Alabama, and it is starting to pay off. And I think that by itself gets me super excited. I mean, you almost got to think of it as a little bit of a pendulum. It used to swing so much in the way of Bama that it is swing hard back. And I think we should ride that wave as much as we can in the recruiting world. Jared, as I've listed out all of those guys, any kind of overall thoughts on why this is happening, or any guys that you want to specifically talk about?
I don't really know exactly why. Here's the reality. Hugh Freeze, he's got a past, right? But honestly, most of these kids don't know about it or care about it. So Hugh Freeze is a very likable, relatable guy. You get him in on the couch with the family, like, he's probably top notch, and he's probably in the top 10, as big programs, as a guy you'd want to go in to close the deal. He's just very relatable.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that's helping. We got to remember that, is it DeBoer? Is that how you say it? Yeah,
Taylor,
I want to think that he's just not going to make it. But even if he is going to, he's coming in on the back end of all this, right? So he's playing catch up. Yes, they get the attention and they get the visits because of who they are, Nick Saban, but he's playing catch up on relationship building. They're not from the South. He's not from the South. A lot of their recruits are coming from out of state. So I think that's played a major part in it. Hugh's got a year up on him. Hugh's been in the SEC. The other thing I'll say, because I know there's a lot of back and forth, Auburn's bragging about, all these Alabama recruits, as they should, and Alabama fans are acting like it's no big deal because they still lead in the overall recruiting and they're getting national guys. And that is, both of those are facts. Here's the thing, though. You have to win in-state recruiting for the long game. LSU has built an entire history on they locked down LSU. They locked down Louisiana.
Yeah. Louisiana,
Georgia, the reason they win championships now is because nobody up until Kirby Smart could figure out a way to lock down Georgia. Even Mark Richt.
Yeah.
I mean, we went in and got Derek Brown. We got a ton of kids out of Georgia. Kirby Smart's, for the most part, locked that down. You got to lock down your state. Now, Louisiana and Georgia have more talent than Alabama, but Alabama is not a talent-free state. There's a lot of good players. If you can figure out how to lock down and repeat this year after year after year, you're just going to win ball games. You lock your state,
100%.
You lock your state down, and it's a state that's in the top 10 in talent, and Alabama is, you're going to do fine.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing I have to remind myself, a lot of times players, they're highly influenced by their parents, and wherever their parents live, they don't want to be super far away from them because guess what? Their parents raised them and they still have a lot of influence over them. So if you keep them in state, they're only hypothetically less than 4-hour drive to any game. So at least at Auburn. So, that's pretty exciting. I mean, that's a big enticing thing. And if you keep doing that, players are going to be happy. Parents are going to stay happy. And then really in my mind, after all of this, can we produce on the field, which is still the question mark in my mind. But from what I've seen, from what I've heard, we'll obviously see this season. I feel like this is going to be when the rubber truly meets the road. But if we can do and kind of still continue to prove out the offense and the defense under the new offensive and defensive coordinators, I mean, the recruits will see that and will come for the 2026 class, the 27 class, and beyond, because they're going to see Hugh Freeze knows what he's doing. His staff knows what they're doing. And that's the part I think why it gets so much hype. Any other thoughts on recruiting before we kind of finish up on our last topic about the college football video game?
No, man. Like I said, you got to go out. You can't win all your games by just Alabama talent, but that's your core. You lock that down. You go pluck a couple of studs from other states. You can make a living off of doing that method there. So it'll be interesting to see if the Alabama model. I think 4 or 5 of their top recruits are from California. I just don't think that continues.
Yeah, I don't either.
Maybe it does. Not saying he won't be successful there. It may work out. I just think they definitely got to have a plan to tackle in-state, because right now, for the first time in a long time, Auburn has the upper hand on that, and that's a good feeling.
Oh, it feels so good. I mean, for us to do that in our home field, I mean, it feels like we used to have to go to, say, Mississippi or Georgia to get, some of the top recruits, and now we can do it within our own state, and then still go out if we need to, kind of in the surrounding areas. It just feels good. All right, let's finish things out since, Jared, you and I have podcasted. I know you and I have been playing a bunch of college football. I've been doing some dynasty building. One of my fun teams, per se, is doing App State. I don't know why. I love their stadium. Love that they have mountains in the background. Maybe that's why. But I would love to make them into a dynasty. And, of course, I picked the Auburn Tigers. And so far doing well. My first season, I think, 9-3, which is fine. Not the greatest, but hey, it's fine. We'll make it work. If Auburn goes 9-3 this year, my goodness, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
In real life.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But what's kind of your experience with this video game, especially in the lens of college football, just about to get started again?
Well, I got a funny real quick for you. You were talking about Oscar Chapman and punting, and the other day you can change when you're punting to backspin, and I had put backspin on it, and I mistimed the power meter, so the punt went 20 yards and it backspun 10. So the punt equaled like 5 yards. But
That's hilarious.
yeah. That was not one of my prouder moments. Overall, it's pretty fun. I mean, I think it's way too easy to intercept, but I've gotten hooked on the road to the college football playoff, which is where you hop online and play 3-minute quarters against a live person.
Oh yeah.
And then it tracks your progress, and like it then, if you reach a certain metric, you get put into the college football playoff.
Ooh.
And it puts the bracket up, and you're playing a live person at each round to win the whole thing. FIFA does that very well with their season model, if you've ever played FIFA online. So it's an interesting concept. But yeah, if you play online, which is what I've been stuck doing, again, you play a live person, and the game matters. Like if you win, you advance. You got to rank high enough to make it into the college football playoff. So it's pretty cool. I've not jumped into the dynasty mode. I did love that back before online play was so big. I've been addicted to the online play right now, but I'm excited to get into the dynasty mode.
Yeah, that's cool.
What do you think about our team overall? Like, who do you utilize the most in the game?
Oh, Jarquez, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, if you can run and get, and especially in the kind of the football game, I feel like you can get some decent yardage with Jarquez. I mean, there's plenty of times that I have Jarquez break out on like a 70-yard run, just because he's got the speed, he's got the power. I mean, that's pretty fun. Definitely ride a little bit Cam Coleman, and I do a good bit with any of our tight ends. Typically, it's pretty much, I don't know. It's usually Rivaldo, sometimes other guys, but typically Rivaldo, just because he was a big guy, big threat. But yeah, it's a fun game. I definitely want to one of the new games, this like the Dynasty, but playing with friends. So I'll give you an example. Like I'm doing it with my brother, dad, and a friend, and we're all four in a kind of online Dynasty. So if you haven't done this, it's kind of like a hybrid of playing your own Dynasty. So you play like week by week with them. Once all people in your kind of online Dynasty finish a week, you get to proceed to the next week. Like for example, we're all in the SEC, and we all pick teams from the SEC, so we play against each other, a lot of times throughout the season. So like for example, towards the end of my season, I chose LSU. I'll play Oklahoma towards the end of the season, which is against my brother, which is kind of fun. So you have like some separated and then some playing with them.
I'm going to invite myself if y'all ever do this again, because I've been looking for somebody to do that. That to me is the first part of this game. So if y'all start a new dynasty and want to add another competitor,
100%.
You know my phone number, my friend.
100%.
Yeah, well, I do like
and
that.
And Jared's phone number is 678. No, just kidding. Just kidding. I'm not.
That's pretty funny. And he loves to be called after 11 o'clock at night. That's his favorite time. Yeah.
That's his favorite time. He's awake all the time.
Awake 11 to 3. Call him multiple times. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so Jared, thanks again for hopping on. I think it definitely gets me excited. We will be doing our regular podcast. We'll be doing our preview show coming up next week, so keep your eye out for that. That'll be the full season preview of Auburn and its opponents for this year, and we'll make our game predictions. And I have a few tweaks to it this year, so nice. I think we'll make some good competition out of this.
Awesome. Well, yeah, man, thanks for having me. Enjoyed it. Looking forward to a good season, and I think it's going to be my first good season, AJ. I'm excited. Good vibes.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jared, how can the people stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Jared Davis.
And you can find me on X at AJAY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.